Hello, my name is Aaron Louie, and welcome to the walkthrough of the piano version of the song Date Alive, which is found in episode 9 of the TV show as part of the soundtrack. In this walkthrough, we will talk about melody, how to identify it, how to protect it, and how to bring it out when we play. We will also take a look at some of the areas in this song that might give you trouble. Even if you aren't interested in playing this, you will be able to take the techniques we cover in this walkthrough and apply them to other pieces that you play. I highly recommend that you download the sheet music in the description below so you can follow along. I'll start by giving you the single most important principle when playing any piece or song. The melody is your king. Everything you play should serve the melody and support it, rather than compete with it. Whenever you start learning a new piece, identify the melody and do everything you can to protect it and make sure that it's heard. In this song, you will find the melody almost always in the right hand's highest notes. Keep that in mind as we go along. The song begins with an echo. An echo is a compositional technique that can add depth to a phrase. Whenever you have a small phrase that's repeated, sometimes in a higher or lower octave, try making the second one softer and more distant and see how that sounds. Since this echo is an octave higher, it's already going to sound softer and more distant, which makes our job easier. There are a couple echoes throughout this song. Try to recognize and experiment with them. On the second line, we have an interesting situation, a line of individual notes. You might be tempted to just play it all as a melody because that's the only thing happening at the moment, but let's look a little deeper. If we go back to the original song, we'll find out where the melody really begins. Now, back to our version. If we use the original melody as a guide, we'll discover that the melody actually starts here, which makes the first 4 notes and the tie not part of the melody. The best way to play this section, then, is to hold the pedal down and play the first 4 notes. When we get to the melody, we want to bring it out louder than the previous notes so people can focus their ears on it. Noticing these kinds of details can really transform your understanding of the music as well as your playing. It all comes down to knowing what the melody is and isn't. Remember, the melody is your king. Let's take a quick survey down the page. You'll see in measure 11 and a few other places that there are multiple notes in the right hand. Only the top notes are considered melody though. So instead of playing all the notes louder, we need to use a technique called voicing to get the top notes to come out. Voicing is a bit more in-depth than I can cover in this video. But basically, we try to control our hand so that the top note gets priority. The pinky will actually hit slightly faster than the other fingers. Try to get this sound. If you're still with me with all this melody stuff, then allow me to add just one more layer into the mix. Some of the parts that we'd consider melody so far are actually background vocal parts in the song. If you're up for the challenge, then bring out the actual melody parts as you would, but make the background vocal parts a step under that, dynamically speaking. This next section, starting at measure 21, is pretty straightforward. You could call it the pre-chorus, because it's just a part that leads into the chorus. protect the melody in this section. Starting from measure 28, we have the chorus. This part can be deceptively tricky because it's the same basic phrase 3 times in a row, except each time there are subtle changes and different endings. Measure 31 to 32 can be tricky for the left hand. Your arm should be up to the task of quickly transporting your hand to where it needs to be next. Think of the A2 as a standalone note, and then group the G3 and middle C together as one motion. In measure 36, we find something similar for the left hand, except you can group all 3 notes together. For the right hand, measure 34 should be played using rotation. Measure 35 is a bit of a technical challenge. Let's talk about how to approach this passage. Remember that the melody is your king, so start by playing the top notes only, fully supported by your hand. When you go to add the bottom notes, keep your hand supporting the top notes. The thumb should float from note to note horizontally, while the pinky and ring finger anchor the right hand. This will take some practice, so don't rush it. Coming out of measure 35, use your arm to quickly move your hand into the next position. Don't give even a single thought to trying to connect the measures with your fingers. Treat them as separate motions. Notice how my pinky rotates into the E to allow the momentum to finish the phrase. Going from measures 39 to 40, use your hand speed to get to this G major chord. Not all notes are meant to be played equally, and we often combine notes within a single overall motion. Take this E for example. Even though it's in the opposite direction, we can play the E like we're just touching it or bouncing on it on the way down. Try to match the motion of my hand when you practice this. In measures 49 to 50, we have a repeating phrase across 2 measures. Again, don't try to connect them. Start each with the same motion, like this. On these chords in measure 51 to 52, use the same idea of playing notes on your way down to the next note. Your hand can move a lot faster than you might think. The final section is a stream of eighth notes for the right hand. Don't play them all the same though, because you would miss out on the melody, which, as you know by now, is your king. Finally, we have a long echo starting at the octave section, a retardando to slow things down, and a nice E minor 11th chord that you roll to end it. I hope this walkthrough has been helpful to you. Feel free to use this video as a guide if you want to learn this song. And remember to always protect your melody. Happy playing, and see you next time.